recording.
We're live.
We're live. Hello, thank you so much for joining the Run Princess family. These are the amazing, amazing women of Sparkle Athletic. We've got Kelly, Carrie, and Elise. And oh my goodness, ladies, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. We are super excited to have you, ladies.
We're excited
to be here. Yeah.
This is so much fun. You guys are leading the headway to like women's running fashion, and just the heart behind what you three ladies do and what you have created is so mind-blowing and so empowering for so many women that we were just super stoked to invite you ladies here, and we cannot wait to like dive into like a whole bunch of questions and to really get to know you ladies on like why you started running and how like your amazing company came to be. So let's get started. If you guys want to maybe tell us like just a little bit about yourself so everyone can kind of like get to know you, like when did you start running, what do you do, kind of like all that fun jazz. And whoever wants to start first.
Who's first?
There's three of you, so I'm kind of like, woo, go.
Kelly, you go first.
Oh, I gotta go first. Okay. So you want to know who I am? I'm Kelly.
Nice to meet you, Kelly.
I started running in 2009. I was pregnant with my third child. I signed up for Disneyland Half while I was pregnant, thinking, oh, this will be the great way to like lose all the baby weight. So I had my baby in May, June, July happened. I never started training, and 2 weeks before the race, I started running because I needed to run a half marathon. I ran the race. Carrie and Elise just randomly, like we didn't all sign up together. They happened to be randomly running it as well. They were better runners and more athletic than myself. And Carrie was very sweet and ran with me until mile 10. Then she like went off and managed to like finish the race.
We all have our limits, you know? Good friends let good friends go.
But yeah, so I mean, I started running, thought it would be kind of done and done, you know, and here I am over 10 years later, still running. I don't know how. I don't know why. Sometimes I question it, but yeah.
That's awesome.
But that's me in a nutshell.
I love it.
All right, should I go next and we'll leave like the real athlete for the end?
It's all up, so if you go after her.
Right. So I started running in 2008. I just had my third child, and I had been a mountain biker just for fun with my husband, and it was really difficult to get into shape mountain biking because I can only do it on the weekends, and I just was really frustrated that I didn't have more endurance biking. And so I decided that the only thing I could really do from my house with a small child was running. So I picked up running because it was easy. I could throw the kids in the jogger and we could just go from the house. So it was not meant to be anything more than just like to build endurance so I could ride more. But then my neighbor at the time was running a turkey trot. And I had never, I mean, racing and that kind of thing just never even entered my mind. And he just said, you should do this. You started running, come do this with me. And it was the Dana Point 10K. I ended up doing the 10K. I don't think I had run barely over 3 miles at that point. And it was pouring rain this time. It was, I mean, I think for most runners, they thought it was like the worst race ever. And I just thought it was an amazing experience. Like I just soaked it all in. I thought it was so fun and all the people, and we were just like sharing in this joint experience together that was weird and wet and cold, and people had their shoes off, and you know, fans were out there just getting drenched, and my family was there. And after that, I was just like, this is fun. Like doing races, that is what I want to do. And so from then on, biking kind of kept going down in the priority, and running and signing up for races kept getting higher and higher.
That's awesome. It almost sounds a little like Princess 5K. A little wet, a little cold. What about you, Elise?
Okay. So I started running in 1998. I was a senior in high school, and my boyfriend ran, so I ran too. And then I just kept running, and I kind of just did it casually, just for, gosh, until I got married, until 2005. And then my husband got into triathlon, and so I got into triathlon. Not that I'm a follower or anything, but I'm just very competitive. I'm like, well, if you can do it, then I can do it too. So I got into triathlon and I loved it. So I kept riding and running and swimming. And then I got into trail running, and then I got into ultra running, and I loved
Wow.
it. And now I'm back to doing no running because I'm injured. I've been injured for about a year and a half.
Oh,
And so I'm doing pretty much zero running, but a lot of biking. But I love running, and I love the community, and I really, really, really miss it. But it's kind of easy to not do it right now because there's no races. I can't get together with people anyway. So it's like, well, if this is the time to be injured, then this is perfect because I don't feel like I'm missing anything. I mean, I miss running, but like I'm
Yeah.
not FOMOing, I guess.
at least it's hard.
Yes, so hopefully I'll be back. I mean, I'm in PT. I'm running like maybe 10 minutes is my limit right now.
That's
Or
great.
run walk, but I'll get there again. But I love running. I love how it makes me feel. I love getting out there by myself and running for hours. So I
Yeah.
really love it. I love the Disney races. Disney Half was my first half marathon standalone. I don't know if it was that race that we all did together, or if that was my second
was.
time doing it. But it was a great time. I think that first year. I've done it every year since the Disneyland Half. So
Oh my
I really
goodness.
miss that race.
That's so cool. Y'all have been running for a really long time. That's
It
really,
just
really
means
cool.
I'm really old.
No, that does not mean you're old. We're like right there in age. You ain't old, girl. You are not old. So tying on with just kind of like, I guess what Elise just said, what was your first race? It doesn't have to be necessarily like the Disney race, but like what was like your first experience with race? Carrie, you had mentioned Turkey Trot was kind of like yours, and it was like this amazingly mind-blowing experience, which is super rad. So why don't you tell us, Carrie, what your first Run Disney race was?
So I think it was the Disneyland half, and that was my first half that I'd ever done. And we look back on it now because and laugh because I wore the race shirt in the race, which now I think when you've been a runner for a while, you realize that's like you don't do that.
I was just about to
It's
ask,
bad
do you
luck.
believe in that?
In my race shirt, you know, I had at
I
least
did it while I'm doing
off
it.
sleeves. I cut off the sleeves. I like cut the neck out. So I like changed it a little bit, but like I had no idea sort of what, and I feel like back then though, only a few really crazy people actually dressed up. Like it wasn't really a thing to dress up and race yet. And I feel
And
like
the people who did it, they dressed in like Halloween costumes. So they were like full on, like not runnable costume.
yeah.
That year we ran, I remember there was like two groups of runners. There was a group of runners at the back of the pack who were wearing kids' Halloween costumes. And then there were three, and I specifically remember this. There were three cross-country boys. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but they were in like the A corral. They were three like young high school age cross-country boys, and they wore Huey, Dewey, and Louie costumes. And I remember like that has stuck with me. Whoever those boys were, they like changed my life because they were like the next reason. I was like, if they could run in those freaking awesome costumes, we can run in costumes. Like that could be really fun. So, and that's all I remember in terms of costumes. That's crazy.
And it's funny to like think back on those times because, you know, Run Disney and, you know, Sparkle Athletic have become so like intertwined and dressing up for the races. But really, none of us even had that in our mind when we first wore our skirts to our first race. Like we'd never, like Disney races were like not even on our mind when we wore the skirts in our first marathon, which is just so weird to look back on. and I think we all remember when we decided to do our first Disney race as a company, it was like a huge deal, and it felt like such a risk to like invest so much money and time into it. And it's just crazy to think back on what, you know, I'm glad we took the risk, right?
I'm really glad. As I, during quarantine, I have like 20 or 30 skirts now. So I'm very happy.
All dressed up and nowhere to go.
Except runs. I have no shame running outside, running a virtual half marathon with a sparkle skirt and mini ears. No shame. Preacher from the clouds, from the sky, from the hills, from everywhere. I guess. Kelly, what about you? What was your first run?
Disneyland half was my first. That was my very.
What year was that? Sorry, ladies.
It would have been 2009. So 2009 Disneyland half was my very first race ever. I had only ran, I think, a total of 6 miles prior to running the race, and
solid.
It was in typical Disneyland half fashion, like a super, super hot day. And I just remember, even at that very first race, I remember running through Angel Stadium and all those kids. And that's just every year that's been my favorite, because it just made me cry. Running through and having all those kids cheer. You've never experienced it half. So you get to run through Angel Stadium and they fill it. Maybe they don't fill it. It feels like they fill it with all these Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and just kids. And you run in on all the bases and they're just yelling and cheering for you. And it just made me cry that there were people who were giving up their time and were cheering for us. They didn't know me and they were cheering for us. And it was just such an amazing emotional experience. And I just remember going through that and going to like the water stop and like just being bawling and being like, Carrie, just go.
Obviously, Kelly's having a moment, so I'm going to let her have a moment.
Don't mess up my time, Kelly. I got to go. Just kidding.
But really, it was after that race, we all signed up for the marathon really soon after that race, right?
Yeah, it was like 2 weeks later when I actually looked it up this past year, and it was like we used to have conversations via Twitter. Like we didn't message each other. We would just talk via Twitter. And it was Carrie who was like, I think I want to run a marathon. And I was like, okay, that's fun. And Elise
Kelly's
was like,
always down for it. Kelly's always down for the new adventure.
and Elise was like, I'm not running a marathon. I'll run a half marathon, but I'm not running a marathon. We were funny because she's the ultra marathoner now. Like she was so scared about running further than 13 miles. And now she's like, oh, 50 miles? Sure, no problem.
You know what? I'd rather run 50 miles on the trail than 26.2 on the road. It's too scary. Road running is too like high
Monotonous?
intensity for me. You just have to like, you're always concerned about your pace, and when you're on trails, it's like, I don't care if I'm doing a 20-minute mile.
There was logs and rocks. That's why it was 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, it's going uphill.
That too. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And then Elise, what was your first run?
So I ran track in high school, so I did the long distance, which was 1 mile and 2 miles. That was considered long distance on the track team. So then after high school, I didn't do any races until I got married, and I did my first race was a turkey trot also, but it was in Long Beach, and I think it was a 10K, and I loved it. It was so fun. And then my first Disney race was that 2009 race. So I did a lot of triathlons in between there, just like sprint and Olympic ones. But that was my first half marathon, was at Disneyland half. And my husband did it too. And I look at like what we were wearing and it seems so weird to be like no sparkle on. I just wore like a plain tank top and black shorts. Like it was super boring. But
so weird.
I don't know. I
think we were just going to survive the race.
Yeah, I don't even remember, like, did I bring nutrition? Like, I don't even remember anything about that. It's such like a newbie, you know, like just seemed like so long ago when it was only like 11 years ago.
And do you remember being so just like I have to do everything exactly. I have to try everything out before the race, and I have to like have everything just right, and nothing can change and nothing can deviate, and I need to like have my hands free. I need to have nothing that annoys me. Like we just would spend so much time on that stuff, and then by the end of our Disney racing, like oh sure, will you hold balloons for the entire 13 miles? Cool, sure. Will you wear a sweater to run in? Awesome, definitely. Like these shoes match my outfit better. Sure, I've never run in them before, but
yeah.
Why not?
Why not? It's just like, I think we all built up like major tolerances too for what we were able to handle.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure.
Totally.
That makes me think of a question. How did you three meet? Kind of like, cause you three are like a little dynamic trio. You three make everything, you make life better. Let's just put it that way. How did you three like meet? Because I know you all kind of live generally like in the same area. Did you meet like going to a race? Did you meet like you were walking your dogs and it's like 101 Dalmatians and the dogs get entangled and you're like, why hello there, new best friend?
The most interesting story? I feel like maybe we should have a more interesting story, but Kelly and I actually went to high school together. And so we knew each other from high school. We were in like our student leadership class together. We weren't really like necessarily like friends or in the same friend group, but we definitely knew each other. And so that happened way back in high school. And then when my husband and I moved to Orange County 13 years ago, he got in with a bunch of people who were riding mountain bikes, and it happened to be with Kelly's ex-husband, and they just got to talking about how their wives were both from this certain area, Thousand Oaks, Newbury Park, and they're like, oh, I wonder if they know each other. And we did. So that's how Kelly and I made that connection again. And then Elise and I went to the same church.
Aww,
I think Skylar rode mountain bikes
and
with
I
them
think
too.
that, yeah, her husband rode mountain bikes. So it was kind of like the guys got us.
The guys kind of fixed us up. I think.
I think so
way
too.
to go, guys.
Yeah. And so we would like ride bikes together first. We rode bikes together before we started running together. And then we all kind of like ditched the bikes, but we would do mountain bike races together. And yeah, that was before sort of the whole running took over, much to, I think, the boys' chagrin, because they are definitely more bikers.
Oh, that's so much fun. See, that's a really cool story. So you ladies have known each other for really, like, honestly, like a really long time. That's really cool.
I have a lot of pictures of Carrie. I've got a lot of blackmail pictures.
That is every good relationship.
Do you have any dress as a Ninja Turtle? Oh wait, no, you don't, because that was my freshman year, so you weren't there. You were a year behind.
I know people. I can get that picture.
I mean, it's some really interesting decisions in high school, so there is a lot of.
It's funny because I always say that I saw Carrie at her prom because I decorated for her prom, and because I was a year behind her in school and just kind of followed her in her roles. And so it was always really funny to like look back on this now and have so much information about Carrie because she was like that older, cool girl, so you always like knew so much about them.
I think that Kelly and I was commissioner of publicity, which means I made a lot of posters for the school. And then Kelly followed in that role the year after. So we always fall back on our like extreme awesome poster making skills. So if you've ever seen our Ragnar van, like that is definitely, it's that good because we both shared that high school experience of being commissioner of publicity. We are good with the poster paint.
I followed you in everything. I think you were freshman class president and I was freshman class president, and then you were junior class president. I just kind of, whatever Carrie did is what I did, which it wasn't on purpose. It just happened that way. But
it's a good thing we weren't in the same class because we might have been rivals.
So does that mean you're going to be running for school board next time, Kelly?
Maybe. Maybe.
After everything that's going on, it's definitely a possibility, I guess.
Oh gosh. Fun times, right? Oh man. Okay, well, let's get to like a super serious question.
Oh.
Are you Team Disneyland or Team Walt Disney World? This actually, like, your
Oh.
answers depend on our relationship too. I will unfriend you if you answer wrong. Just kidding.
Oh, geez.
All
No
I can
pressure.
say is I saw the new ears that Disneyland put out yesterday, the blue ones that has the Disney letters
They're
on it.
so cute.
And I need those because I'm Disneyland. It's just better. It's a better place. I don't care if the castle's smaller. It's better.
Yeah.
It's homey.
I'm
Yeah.
Team Disneyland. I grew up going to Disneyland. I have, with my family. We didn't go a lot, but I have these like really amazing memories of being there as a child with my family. And I was able to take my kids when they were little. We just have so many memories at Disneyland. So Disney World will never touch it because there's just too many memories.
Yeah.
Disneyland all the way. It's not even a question. I mean, again, yeah, growing up here, having lived here, I mean, living in Orange County for nearly 20 years, I've had an annual pass the entire time. Like, I remember when my annual pass cost like $300, and I thought it was so expensive, but it got me to Disneyland every single day. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, that pass is like $1,000 now. So it's just, but yeah, Disneyland all the way. Just like Elise said, it doesn't matter if the castle is smaller. It was Walt's Park. All my memories are there. And I don't really want to drive 20 minutes to get to another park. Like, I love that it's all compacted into two tiny little parks. They're
And you
amazing.
can do both in like one day. It's so easy.
So
I love that.
Yeah. And
Well,
I will say
like
that. I will also say that for the races as well. Like, I would pick Disneyland half over the Walt Disney World races any day. And even though they say that you run through more of the parks, I don't really agree. Like, I just think the Disneyland races, you run through the races, and then when you run through Anaheim, they do such a great job of bringing in the entertainment and making sure that you're entertained and having fun the entire time. It's just and then you run through Angel Stadium and you get to cry all over again. Like, it's just really fun.
And it might also have to do with we don't have to wake up at like 3 a.m. when there were Disneyland races. But that's the type of point.
That was actually going to be my next question too. What is kind of like, which races would you prefer, Disneyland or Walt Disney World? And kind of like why? So I guess Kelly kind of already explained her why. But what about you ladies? What defines like Disneyland away from Walt Disney World, or Walt Disney World like Princess or Marathon compared to like a Disneyland run? Because I know that they don't do Disneyland races anymore. So when I get to talk to people, I'm like, oh my goodness, like you got to do like a Disneyland run. Like it's really, really cool.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
I mean, I just love the Disneyland races because it's my home. Like, the Disneyland half actually runs on part of the trails I ride and run on all the time. And so like
awesome.
the year that we did the expo the first time, I was pregnant, and my husband and my dog came out to the race. We were only like a mile and a half, like we only lived a mile and a half from that point of the race. And it just feels like home. Like, it's just, I drive these streets, I run these roads, like it's just my race. And so that's why I like it the most. I mean, it is also cool to go somewhere else and do something different, but I don't know, Disneyland just feels like a good race. And I love Disney World races, but I just feel like there's so much time just on like a dark, empty road.
Yeah.
And so it's just not as awesome as Disneyland. The city of Anaheim does put on a great race. And like, I see my high school cheerleading and band out there at Angel Stadium. So it's so cool to see like my hometown stuff there. So it's always going to be my favorite race, no matter what any of the other races are.
Okay.
Disneyland half is definitely where it's at. And it's just the way that Disney gets the whole community involved is really what sets it apart for me. And that's what's always been racing for me, is all about the community aspect of it. And that's why I love it so much. I love the fans being able to come out. And I just feel like at Disney World, it's so hard for fans to come and watch, and just so spread out and big. But like, the community comes out for Disneyland. It's not just people who are there on vacation. It is the whole community, different organizations. They get all, you know, the cosplay people come out for certain things, and it's just amazing to have that community kind of support. And again, it's like just having that moment all together with your community that makes all the difference to me.
That's awesome. If I had gone, I would agree. There's something about being at Disneyland that it's just a sense of home. So for at least that's what I love it. Love it. All right. We're going to kind of transition a little bit into like a Sparkle Athletic now. I'm so excited. What was the moment that you really realized that you could take this like amazing passion and this amazing drive and turn it into something that's just so big and so like forthcoming and a front runner kind of for like women's, not only women's fashion, also passion, but just taking this beautiful and turning it into like a company?
For me, it was when we ran our first marathon in them, and it was just, I had made one for each of us, and we were all running in them. And it was that moment that, you know, Elise was counting people commenting on our skirts and was getting up in, you know, to the hundreds, 200 people commenting on our skirts by mile 8. And it wasn't just that, it was like having like the little girls who are watching us race, like look at us and be like, I like your skirt, you know, and just realizing that, like, you know, they were seeing us doing something like really athletic and hard, and that we had worked and set this goal, but we were also like having fun, and it was something that they identified with, and maybe that they would want to try and do it because they were seeing it in a different light. And so I think that it was all during that race. I think that all of us, because it was by the end of the race, we were kind of like, maybe we're on to something. Maybe this is something, because we had such a good reaction from people. And that's, I think, when, I mean, that's when I decided, and maybe Kelly and Elise would have a different answer.
Well, I just think, I agree, but I think there's backstory to that in the sense that we never planned on starting a company. And that's, you know, Carrie came up with the crazy idea to run a marathon. And so we finally all got convinced to run a marathon. And then Carrie had another crazy idea.
It doesn't sound like me coming up with the idea to run a marathon. I'm not sure that, are we really
And then Carrie like had another crazy idea. She sent us like a text message, or maybe it was on Twitter, but she was like, why don't we wear sparkly skirts to run our marathon? Like, it's going to be one and done. Let's have a little fun. And again, I was like, sure, sign me up. And Elise was like, no, I'll wear a sparkly headband. I'm not wearing a skirt. But, you know, we eventually got to this point where Carrie just made Elise a skirt, and we are running suddenly this marathon in skirts. And so it was never intended to be a business. It was just something that we wanted to do for ourselves to have a lot of fun. I mean, Carrie nailed it exactly. Everyone was talking to us. Everyone was commenting. People were asking about it. And we started running, and it was like, okay, maybe we should try to sell this. Like, do you think we can really sell this? Well, we'll throw up a website and see if we can sell it. And I mean, it was just really simple. I don't think we ever thought it would really go anywhere. I mean, that sounds terrible. Like, we wanted.
No, it's awesome.
We just thought it would be like a side hustle, you know, and just kind of making. And the first couple skirts, like, it was like the listing said, like, order a skirt and you'll get it in 2 to 3 weeks. Like, they were custom made at that point. Like, it was not a like, oh, this is gonna.
And I'd wake up some mornings and go, please let there not be an order today, because I don't want to make a skirt.
But, you know, and it was we quickly realized that there was an audience for it, and people wanted to have just as much fun running as we did. And that's what I think we really just wanted to do, was have, like, running was such a serious thing, and it was almost overwhelming as, like, the person who's not an athlete, as the person who didn't run track in high school. For me, running was kind of overwhelming, and I think we loved being able to help people just make it fun. Like, you can be a runner and you can be fun. Like, you don't have to be super serious and crazy fast. And I don't know, it was really fun.
Or you can, but just wear a skirt.
Watch the sparkle trail fly.
Right. You have anything else to add, Elise?
No, that was perfectly
You're
good.
solid. Solid.
Elise,
I mean, it really,
literally-
like, those moments went back exactly to, again, like what I loved about running and racing so much was having the crowd just really get into cheering for us because of these skirts. Like, it was just like another way to sort of build this community and this excitement and this, you know, that I loved and I thought was so great. And I think that just paved the way for the type of community we've been able to build around these skirts, that if you show up at a race and you see another person in a skirt, like, you all of a sudden like have this bond wherever you are, you know. And if you're running alone in a race, and you're going to have people cheering for you because they'd be like, hey, I like your skirt, you know, they just go Sparkles. Like, they have something to like say to you, and it helps so much. I'm super fueled by the cheers of the crowd. So that is definitely what, you know, that was sort of my point in wearing the skirt to begin with. Like, I just wanted to stand out a little bit. I wanted my family to be able to see me. I wanted them to be able to cheer for me because I knew how much that was going to mean to me to have success in a race. So
Yeah.
the crazy thing when I look back on it is I think how much of that original race, like how much of the conversation and the ideas that we had from that original 26 miles is what has propelled us and what has become the motto and the mission of our company now. Because it was during that race that was like, well, what do we call the company? Like, you know, and we kind of played with a bunch of different names, and we had kind of settled at first originally on Team Sparkle. And it was during that run that we were talking about, we're like, well, we just want to create a community that's like a team where everyone's together. And it kind of blows my mind that that's what we talked about. Like, that very first moment that we were having a conversation about making a business, it became well, we want to create a community. We want to create a place where people feel comfortable, where Carrie was talking about, where you see someone else in a skirt and you know that they're your instant friend. And it just kind of amazes me sometimes that we had not the foresight, but that was at the very forefront of our minds in the very, very beginning, as Elise was literally counting. We joke about it, but like Elise literally was counting. Oh, that's like 100 people that have said something. Oh, 150. And she's an accountant, and counting things is her favorite thing in the world. And it was just so funny. At one point she said something.
Sometimes she like counts steps. Then sometimes when I would run with her, she would count how many times I would spit, because I spit a lot.
I wouldn't say counting's my favorite thing.
It just helps you pass the time, right? Isn't that what you just said?
But a marathon's a long time, so you gotta do something for 4 hours. So it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll count this. And sometimes when I get in my pain cave, like, I have to really like focus on one thing. And that was just happened to be it. Okay, I'm just gonna count how many times people say it. Like, that will just be my focus, so I can take my mind off of how hard it is to run a marathon.
But best marathon ever, I'm sure, for sure. Or not, but I mean, the counting was fun.
That was the
The
most
worst.
painful marathon ever.
Well,
I
it was a
don't know about
productive,
that.
best productive run ever. Best productive.
Very
Okay,
productive.
we'll reward it.
I mean, life changing, really. I think for
Yeah.
all of us.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Do you ladies remember what skirts like you were wearing?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we still
Oh
have
yeah,
them.
we still have them. They're super short too. The original design was very
Elise
short.
kept cutting hers shorter and shorter. And shorter. She had like major butt cheeks hanging out, but
Well, that's
It
just
was
because my
nice.
skirt, yeah, it was coming up, and it was our original design. Mine was pink.
yeah, mine was chartreuse. But the fun fact is, chartreuse, like that lime green, this behind me,
Okay.
was not part of our original 6 colors we offered. We ended up offering Kelly green instead. And so we had to Photoshop all of our photos. So mine looks Kelly green instead of the original lime.
Oh,
But
that's
I wore
funny.
lime.
Okay.
And then I wore turquoise.
Oh, fine. Okay, so that kind of bleeds into like where I was going to ask next. Like, at what moment, I guess, did you realize that you could actually do something? So you said in the middle of the 26.2 horrific miles of counting, like you had already come up with like a name, and you were like, oh my goodness, like this is something that we could totally turn into. Was it like that night you were like, okay, we're gonna like put our feet up and then we're gonna like discuss this? Like how much in between did it take, like a year to kind of get it?
The name that night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like the website name. I'm pretty sure it would happen like that night.
We
And
did.
then we started,
We-
I think we threw up an Etsy site within a week.
We
Yeah,
did both. We threw up a website and an Etsy shop
Right.
that week. I was in Mexico. I remember because I went on vacation in Mexico, and I was in Mexico building a website. And my mom was like, "What are you doing? We're on vacation." And I'm like, "I gotta build this website. I'm not sure how to build a website, but I gotta get it done."
But it's gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And then immediately we also started this like traveling skirt program, which again
Yeah,
was sort of
something
like this
like that.
building of the community. And we just kind of like felt like these skirts had like some kind of magic in them. And so we had this, and we did this for a while, for quite a few years. We had these traveling skirts that would go from person to person. You could just request it and it would get sent to you. You'd wear it for your race, and then you'd like clean it, and then you mail it to the next person for their race. And so you
And
knew
then you
the skirt
and then you do a questionnaire so we could blog
Right.
about it on the website.
yeah. So just sort of like the same
That's
skirt had been
awesome.
worn. Kind of like the, you know, the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants situation. And that was we started that at the very beginning. So
Mhm.
a few people were just kind of would request it and we'd send it out. And that was part of our original kind of social media marketing plan from the beginning.
That's a genius idea. Straight up. That's
Maybe
you
we
guys
need
should
to
bring that back.
Maybe not just
Oh my gosh,
I
it
know.
was so much
Not during
work to
COVID.
keep track of.
But after. That would
We
be a
have to
better
hire
idea.
someone else to keep track of it.
That's right. That's why we stopped that, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, sometimes it would get lost or kept.
Oh no.
It was so magical, people wanted to keep them.
Oh, well, I mean, good sign. They want your stuff.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. How did you ladies come up with Sparkle Athletic? Because I heard you guys kind of talking about like Team Sparkle first. Was it originally Team Sparkle and then it turned into Sparkle Athletic? And then lo and behold, we have a Team Sparkle now. So that's kind of like, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I would say that was one of like the big turning points in making it a real business is we met with like this guy. I'm not even sure like what his title was, like a business guru
Yeah.
guy.
This consulting guru.
Yeah, and we like paid him some money. It was a lot of money, I thought at the time, like $1,000 to like help consult with like making our business more professional. And like we went for like a whole day and we took all these notes. But I think the major thing we took away was that he told us we needed to change our company name. And we're like, what? I don't think so, because I think we maybe had been in business a year or two, but I think it was one of the best decisions we ever did. We changed our name, came up with the branding, and it just seemed more real because now we were like really focusing on like what our mission was, what we wanted people to perceive when they heard our name. Because the Team Sparkle, you don't necessarily know what that is, but with Sparkle Athletic, it's something related to athletics. So I think that was one of the big turning points in our company. And we tossed the name around for a while. I don't even remember what the other names are, but I remember having a list of like 20 names, but this one I think is perfect for us.
Yeah, but we always knew that we were going to keep Team Sparkle as like the community because we had already, spent so much time and effort building a community. So Team Sparkle has always been the community, and then Sparkle Athletic just became the brand.
That's awesome. That's really, really cool. What was the, so you ladies said that you were working with skirts first. So was skirts like the first item, and like, do you guys remember which ones you first started selling? And then how did it kind of trickle into, because now you make sleeves and you make tops and you make visors. And did you guys partner with Pro Compression to make the socks? Because I have the socks and I absolutely love them. They're fabulous. So dish on.
We always say that everything we make is basically a selfish endeavor. It's something that we designed because we either needed it or we wanted it ourselves. And so, I mean, a lot of it came out of costuming, which is sounds really funny. But yeah, the skirts were the very first. Carrie said we had 6. The original, it was like the red, pink, and yellow, green, and purple and silver. Is that the original?
And
stripe?
Remember?
turquoise. Yeah.
Isn't that yeah? It's like classic kind of rainbow was that first, the first 6 that we had for a long time. And for a long time, it was like, everything was simple. Like I remember our first Disneyland race, and we just had the red solid, not the solid, but the red skirt. We got those round garage stickers and put them on, like Elise was wearing it. And I remember we put stickers on it to make it look more like Minnie, because at that time we didn't have a Minnie Mouse skirt. This was our first adventure into Disney. And so we were like telling people like, here, take this like sheet of stickers home and like put the stickers on your skirt. And so then Carrie was like, maybe I should find a polka dots fabric instead of advertising stickers to put on your skirt, find the fabric. So
right. I mean, and that's really how like our visors came to be too. I was Peter Pan, dressed up as Peter Pan for a Tinkerbell race, and I was working also, and I took an old visor because I always wore a visor when I ran. And I took out an old visor and I took some of our fabric, our green fabric, and I covered it and glue gunned it all together. And I wore it at the expo. And so many people were like, oh, I love your visor. Where do I get one? And I'm like, well, I made it. And then like by the end, we were like, we have to make visors. And I think that it was, again, like during that expo, I was like researching, making calls, trying to find someone who could make us our visors with our fabric. And that's how we started the partnership with Head Sweats. And they've been our visor and our headwear partner ever since.
But I mean, even like prior to our compression socks, we made what was called race legs. And they were basically just like leg warmers, but they were like crazy looking leg warmers. And that came about, it was our very first expo. It was Long Beach Expo. And we had Carrie and I had participated in a relay with a bunch of friends. And part of and we had provided skirts to everyone. And then I had also gotten like some long socks for everyone and cut off the bottoms of the feet. So everyone had crazy looking socks. I had this great picture of like the row of all the rainbow of skirts, and everyone was wearing socks. And everyone who came to our booth at Long Beach was like, I want those socks. Like the skirts are great, but where do we get those crazy socks? And we looked at each other and we're like, okay, so I guess we need to sell socks. So I remember we stopped, I think at Target, and got knee-high socks. And Carrie and I, we cut off the bottom and sewed the bottom for our first batch of race legs. And again, we were at the expo when we came up with the name and bought the like website at the expo. And quickly after, Carrie found a great manufacturer who made them for us. And we had some, and for a long time, people weren't wearing compression socks. So we used these race legs and people loved them. And we had them in crazy colors and crazy patterns. And, and then people got into compression. We've kind of made that transition and started, Carrie has a great relationship with Pro Compression, but it's just all kind of been based out of things that we wanted or needed, or like we made for ourselves and someone then said that they wanted it. It was like, okay, we'll figure out a way to sell that.
That's awesome. You all are very, very talented too, since you guys can like make socks and skirts and everything. That's
necessity is the mother of invention.
That's true. That's a really good quote. We should quote you on that. That's amazing. So you said you guys were at the Long Beach Expo. When did you guys first start doing expos? Was the Long Beach your first expo, or did you do a Run Disney Expo first? And kind of how did you get into doing expos?
Yeah, Long Beach was our first. I think it was a year after we started, or a year and a half.
I
think so
a year. Let's see. It must have been 2010, the same year, because the next year we did Disney for our first one. I don't know why we decided on Long Beach. Maybe we knew someone who was doing it.
I have no idea.
I don't know. It was just it was a local race, and we thought we had run it before, so maybe that's why we decided to do the expo. And
Do you
then
remember that how many skirts we sold and how excited we were?
yeah, it was 60.
Yeah.
I remember.
Awesome.
We were so excited.
I don't like numbers at all.
I, the day
But-
was Saturday, the 27th. Just kidding.
I know it was October, and like we knew how much the expo was, and we just wanted to like break even with our costs of being there, even though like the cost of material was different. And so then the next year when we did Disney, like the cost of the booth was so much more. Surprise,
Oh.
Disney charges a lot. Which it's actually a fraction of the price that it is now. But we were like, oh my gosh, we're gonna have to sell like, I don't even remember what the number was, like
We were so
150
scared.
or 200. Yeah, it was a real investment to do our first Disney Expo because we knew how much we made at Long Beach, and we sold like a little bit. And so it was just, you know, a couple $1,000s to do Disney. So it was like, this is gonna, hopefully we'll be okay and like break even again. But I remember I was pregnant for that expo.
I feel like one of us is always pregnant for one.
I know.
Like
Well,
that for a few years.
I just remember because I was wearing the red skirt with the white polka dots, and I had like a black skirt or shirt hiding my huge belly. And I remember Lucy helping at the booth with us, Carrie's daughter. She must have been, let's see if it was 2011, like 9 years old.
So cute.
It's so different to see, like, you know, we were just there trying to sell a couple skirts, and now our booth is just like, here's how to put together these 10 costumes with all these accessories. So we've come a long way in the Disney circuit.
Oh yeah, for sure. How did you guys get involved with doing the Run Disney Expo? Did you, because you did like Long Beach? Sorry, go ahead.
I think we just applied for it. At the time, it wasn't like it is now. So you could just say, hey, I want to do this. And you sent them an email, and then they billed you, and that's what it was. Now it's like you have to be invited, and they have very limited space. So it's a little bit more exclusive. But I think maybe because we've been in it a while, we have that, I don't know, what do you call it? Legacy. So they let us come. But yeah, it was just
It
so
girls.
different.
I
Yeah.
like to think that they know that their races are more fun when we're there. Because
Well, I think that's obviously true, but I don't know if they want to admit that.
Darn them. That's so much fun. Have you guys been there since the first time you did it? You said in 2009, 2010, 2011.
2011, because I was
Okay.
pregnant. Yeah.
Have you done that every single year? Have you guys gone to Walt Disney World every single year to do? Is it
So-
like specific races, or do you guys go for like all of them?
We go for all of them. Well, all the Disney races. At the time, there was only Disneyland half, and then they added Tinkerbell in 2015. That's when my second was born. And then our first Disney World. What year, Kelly, did we go to that?
I think it was 2016. Was it the next year? 2017?
That's
What?
like
No.
longer than that.
I think maybe 2013. Anyways, we didn't go there at first because it was like a huge investment to like fly somewhere
Yeah.
and get
Ship
a hotel room. And the booths are even more expensive at Disney World.
Oh gosh.
Because I think the first one we went to was Marathon Weekend, which is their biggest race. So it makes sense. We were just like terrified to go there, but we did. And after we went, we we're like, we have to be at every race. This is
I
just
remember
awesome.
I had
Awesome.
gone the year before, whatever year it was, I'd ran my first Princess. And I remember coming back and saying, we need to figure out how to go to that expo. And then I had signed up for Goofy and was running Goofy. And we were still trying to get, like, we didn't find out that we were in for Marathon Weekend until like November. Cause I had already signed up for the race and was already going. And then it was like, we were trying to get in and just hoping. I remember we were in Vegas when we found out we were
Vegas,
finally
yeah.
in. And it was like,
Yeah.
we're in. We got to figure out what to do now. Where do we stay? How do we do this? We'd never like traveled to an expo, so it
Like
was overwhelming.
logistics and all of that.
Yeah,
So-
you know what? It was 2013. I remember because I brought my son. He was 1. I thought it would be easier for to fly a babysitter with me with my son than to have someone babysit him at home. And I was afraid of missing him, so I brought my
Aw.
son with us to Disney World. So they got to go play at the parks. So I keep telling them, "You have been to Disney World before." He doesn't remember. Obviously, he was 1, but I would never bring my kids again unless I was going not for work, you know?
You're
So
awesome.
that was crazy.
Oh, that's awesome. What is your favorite expo to do at Walt Disney World? Since now we don't
Princess.
have Disneyland.
Princess.
What makes that one stand different than like all the other ones?
People are there to dress up. Like they are just there to have fun and be part of the experience, and they're with their girlfriends, and it's just like everyone just seems happier. I don't know what it
It's
is,
the
but
whole
there's just some
vibe.
magic to it.
All this just, yeah, it's just kind of like women and friends, and I feel like it's everything that like Team Sparkle like stands for too, and running, and it just like, it just feels right, you know?
Well, and if it's whether they're there with a bunch of girlfriends or they're there on their own, you know, so many people are just, they're excited to run. They are, and they're there, you know, so many people are there to do their very first race, which is always so fun. Like it's so fun to talk to people who are doing their very first race and how excited they are, or whether this is the race that they come back every year to do with their family. It's just, everyone's just excited and happy to be there. And it's magical. I mean, you're freaking at Disney World.
You are definitely just at Disney World. You're like, oh, this is amazing. I remember Princess was my first one. And Carrie, you were at the booth at this time, and it was my very first one, and I was in sheer panic. I was bawling because I was like scared, but my family wasn't there with me. Like it was this ridiculous thing, and you just came over to me and gave me a big hug. And you're like, it's okay. And then you sold me on like the purple one because I was like, this is my outfit. It's totally ruined. Like, I don't know what's happening. So I'm like swiping like all these photos. And you're like, it's okay. Sparkle will make it better. And it was just like so amazing. So I have this like picture of like standing there with you and being like, because I was so excited. So like for coming from like a new person, Kelly, what you were just talking about, like talking to somebody who's never done it before, you three like really help calm the nerves of like a lot of women who have never, you know, done like a race, like a big scale race like this before. So you three are,
I mean, we feel
fabulous.
really lucky that people just come to us and be like, and they share their excitement and their nervousness, and then they'll just trust us to be like, wear this. Cause they just, they want help. They'll show us you're not the only one who shows all the colors.
Tell me what to do and what to wear. I don't know.
I don't have what I'm supposed to have, and now it's hot or now it's cold. Now what do I do? And you know, and they trust us to sort of help them make their race day the very best that it can be. And so
and you guys so do. Amazing. All right, we're gonna quickly stop right here for just a few minutes, and then we're going to continue on with another episode so we can kind of break it up a little bit. So whether you're on the treadmill or you're listening in the car, you guys have another like hour with these amazing 3 women. So stay tuned, you guys. We will be right back.